not my proudest moment as a parent this weekend watching the Little League World Series, forcing my son to watch the championship, asking him, "Buddy, which team are you going to root for?" He points at the TV. The team is Chinese Taipei. I said, "Like hell you are. You're cheering for Florida," which honestly, depending on who you ask, could also be considered a foreign country.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Welcome to the Elle Duncan Show with Gary Streisky. I was like, the kid's just looking at me because for those of you that don't know, Xander is my son and he is 3. So he
Sure.
already was like, why are you forcing me to watch this? And then secondly, why can't I cheer for Chinese Taipei? And I promise you, I think it's just still the Olympics inside of me.
Yeah.
It's feeling very xenophobic and is very much like, no, we go for Americanness in this house
Yeah.
right here. You're choosing Florida. You ain't choosing no Chinese Taipei.
That's
You're
right.
choosing Florida.
That's
And
right.
listen, history was on my side. As it turns out, Florida was the winning ticket. What a
Sure was.
wild ending to the Little League World Series. There was some confusion in my house. People were like, I think they came back from the commercial break too late because when I looked up, there was already someone at second. And I'm like, well, that's how it works in extras. They put a runner on second base. Of course, we have this wacky ending, and it's a walk-off bunt for Florida based on a series of errors. Someone didn't cover first base for Chinese Taipei. But just a fun, wholesome, lovely Sunday in our house on foreign teams that are
Hey,
chilling.
that's what
Well
I'm
done,
saying.
Elle.
Listen, we can sit here and applaud the boys from Florida and call that just a happy, innocent, fun weekend and another banner year at Williamsport. It's not going to be any of those things when those players from Chinese Taipei go back home and they have to suffer the consequences
Yeah.
of letting the country down. Elle, okay?
Okay, well, that
Not
feels
great.
that feels like a lot. I
I'm
I
not no, I'm not
imagine
making any assumptions. All I'm saying is heavy is the head that wears the crown when you are representing the People's Republic of China abroad.
this is fair, and I would have given you that during the Olympics, but it feels like 11 and 12-year-olds should get a pass. It feels like
Mhm.
they should be allowed to, like, lose and then not have to suffer any consequences when they get home. They should still get a hero's welcome because they are children.
Hey, I agree with you, Elle, is all I'm saying. Let's just say I'm glad that I was born in South Korea, just a touch south of China, far enough south that I ain't gotta worry about none of that, you know?
I love that you took a minute too. I could see the synapses firing like geographically. We're
Yeah.
south, right?
I
Yeah,
just
we're
had to double
south
check. South Korea, South okay, it makes sense.
of China, South Korea. Big weekend in sports in general. I mean, the W was in action, and big shout out to Maya Moore because they officially retired her jersey for the Minnesota Lynx. It was like a really big game because it was, of course, in Minnesota, but it was also the fever there.
Mhm.
And Caitlin Clark, notably, huge Maya Moore fan. I was lucky enough to be a part of the surprise for Caitlin when she was at Iowa this year, and we brought Maya Moore there. She had met Maya Moore as a child. She was a big fan of hers. She met her. Maya doesn't remember, of course, because as Maya says, I met a lot of little girls, but I'm just so excited that one of the little girls that came up to me and got a hug ended up being Caitlin Clark, and that's the goal and point of all of this. So they were very intentional about doing it this way so it could be in front of Caitlin Clark. But it was such a cool moment for Maya Moore, who, when it's all said and done and you talk about people who walked away on top, like we always sort of talk about like Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, it's a Detroit Lions thing, right? But they, while they were still at the top of their game, they had not had any real success,
Mhm.
right? Like team wide. Maya Moore is arguably one of the most accomplished athletes of all time, winning in college, winning in the pros, being an MVP, player of the year. I mean, she was incredible. And it's not like the Lynx were taking some sort of downturn in the 8 years that she was there when she decided to walk away at 29 years old to help free her now husband from prison. But when you talk about like some of the greatest stories of all time that had already been written, but there were so many chapters to go. It's really, really special to think about what Maya decided to do and to now live in Atlanta on a farm with her husband and her son. And she has no interest in coming back. I joked with her because she was a bit of a guest analyst with us, if you will, when we were there in Iowa. And I was like, off air, I was like, Maya, you're pretty good at this. You want to come? She was like, hell no.
Really?
No. Well, because she really enjoys her life, and I think
Good.
we can't some of us can't believe that. Like, we can't believe that someone could walk away from the fame and the fortune and the success and the household name of it all, and especially after working your whole life for this goal. But she is so content and happy and working on criminal justice reform and being, with her son every day. In fact, when she came to Iowa, it was the first time she hadn't been with her son since he had been born. So it was really special though to see her truly get her flowers and adoration again, to see the jersey retired, to see Nike, first female athlete to be signed by Nike, bronze her shoe, and just to see the emotion on her face. It was really really special. Then a great performance to boot. Caitlin Clark was fantastic. But Nafisha Collier, who was also inspired by Maya Moore,
Mhm.
was like, no, 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 baby, I'm gonna get this 31 and we're gonna get this win. But just a
Yep.
great showcase and performance there, in Minnesota over the weekend.
The stakes on the court were heavy because obviously the Fever were coming off a couple of wins and they are looking
Yeah.
up to the Lynx, directly up to them in the WNBA playoff standings
Mhm.
with just about a little over a dozen games left in the regular season. I thought it was super funny. The tweet I saw, it was a screenshot of Maya Moore and her husband sitting courtside, and it was a quote tweet of this guy who was like, I ain't never forgiven this man for taking away Maya Moore in her prime. You know, and that's hey, that's objectively funny. Obviously, she stepped away because she wanted to exonerate this man who was wrongly accused. And like you mentioned, they are now husband and wife, happily married with a child. But yeah, she went full Barry. She went full Calvin, John Elway, right? He rode off after 2 Super Bowls. We haven't seen that often. I probably think the most recent example of that, of an athlete at the top of their game, or at least in the conversation at the top of their game, Andrew Luck, right? It's been 8
Sure,
years since he retired from being
sure. Wow.
QB1
Yeah.
in Indianapolis, which is insane.
Mhm.
So it's cool to see her still a decade later have the same impact while not directly on the court, still in the game, having that impact. It's
Yeah,
cool.
because even when you think about Andrew Luck, I mean, part of why he didn't wanna come back was the injuries. He couldn't
Yeah.
stay healthy. He was tired of going through the rigmarole of trying to get his body in a good place and going through rehab and all of those things. Again, Maya Moore was fine. I mean, she
Yeah.
truly stepped away, and at the time, we thought like, "Okay, well, she's stepping away for a greater purpose, and that's amazing. She's gonna free this man, and then she's gonna come on back to us." And she was like, "Nope."
She's
Because
like, I'm
again,
gone.
the common man can't wrap their head around leaving something when you have worked that hard to be that incredible at it.
Mhm.
And but she just had a bigger purpose, and she doesn't regret it a day in her life, according to her. Like, she's doing exactly what she wanted. She has lived the life that she has designed. And certainly I think she misses probably the camaraderie of being on a
Sure.
team. I mean, I do. Like, I hadn't played since I was 18, right? I just played softball. Like,
Yeah.
and I wasn't a Maya Moore, and I still like miss that team aspect. It's why I love being around sports and being around teams, because how they look out for each other and how they interact with each other and the joy and all those things that come along with being on a team. But it's super cool to see her do that. But you mentioned it, like the playoffs are getting tighter. And one of the biggest storylines that we've been so excited about is, could the Aces three-peat? And we kind of thought, well, once Chelsea Gray comes back, like they're going to be okay, right? Like, she is
Mhm.
a finals MVP. Like, she is one of the best facilitators in the league. Like, that is a key cog to what they do. Once she comes back, they're going to be fine. And for a minute, it felt like that. She comes back right before the Olympic break. They go on a nice run. They're starting to look like the Aces again. They come back from the Olympic break. They don't really look like the Aces. And a lot of
Mhm.
that had to do with the fact that while Asia Wilson is continuing to put up MVP numbers, they weren't getting the same production that they were getting from Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum last year, or Chelsea Gray. And then we see the Chicago Sky and the Aces facing each other, right? Chicago Sky clinging to a playoff spot. The Atlanta Dream are right there, because the Atlanta Dream have come out of the
Barely.
All-Star break and they're like, "Oh,
Yes.
we have some plans. All right. We're gonna surprise some people and make a little bit of a run." And they've been doing that. Now they're just, I think, the Sky just a half game ahead of the Dream for that final spot. But it looked like on Sunday they were gonna get this win. They were gonna go toe to toe with the two-time champs. They were going to get this win. Kennedy Carter with the miracle three to tie it up. There's only a couple seconds left. And what happened next is why, to me, the Aces should still be feared. Because despite looking more human than before, Asia Wilson, who had self-admittedly the worst shooting performance of her career. She was 8 of 28. She missed a career high 20 shots. She tweeted afterwards,
Bam.
she tweeted afterwards, "With all my bricks, you could have built a house." But what did
Yeah.
she do when it counted? She gets the inbound pass from Chelsea Gray. Somehow, she leaks out from the defense and gets the layup at the buzzer to win. And that to me is why the Aces are so dangerous, because even on a night where Asia Wilson looked fallible,
Yeah.
they still found a way to win. It was fantastic. The last 10 seconds of that game, if y'all missed it, was incredible.
The only thing I think, the only metric people need to understand when you're talking about a team and if they have a chance, not if they have a chance, but how much noise they're going to make in the playoffs. Like right now, the Aces are fifth in the WNBA standings,
Mhm.
right? They are, by all accounts, by all metrics, by all measurables, they are middle of the pack. That being said, nobody, nobody in the playoff field wants to see them because they are one of those teams that when it is the second season, they know what's really good. They have layers, they have options, and that's when they come to flourish. Like, all right, cool, let's get through this regular season. And it's the playoff time, and they are the ones who have dominated it. It's the Liberty, it's the Sun, it's the Lynx who have all now clinched playoff spots. And then 4 through 8 right now is still a bit of a shuffle. But I can guarantee you, if you ask any of them, whether on the record or off, like nobody wants to see Asia Wilson and the Aces in the playoffs.
Yeah, we heard Sue Bird say, as much even about the Fever. Like, I don't think they're a team that you want to face in the postseason because they're starting to put it together.
That's
They're figuring
correct.
it out. Like, we mentioned that they lost to the Lynx, but they still look great. And it begs the question too, especially after we watched the Sky game with the Aces. Angel Reese making more history, but the biggest question is, can she lead her team to the playoffs? We know what she can do. Mama can rebound, okay? She had her third straight game with at least 20 rebounds and tied the WNBA mark for most double doubles by a rookie with 22, something that she is probably going to break with a few games left on the schedule. But again, Chicago ended up losing. And just to put some perspective, because I think, again, we always grow so apathetic to excellence. It's like, okay, yeah, but Angel Reese was a double double person in college and she set double double records in the SEC and like, whatever. The last NBA player to hit the 20 rebound mark for 3 straight games, can you guess?
I only know the answer because because I did Sports Center over the
Literally in the
weekend.
Google Doc, yeah.
It's Shaq.
No,
Oh wait, just kidding. I was giving the wrong information then.
Ben Wallace,
Oh, Ben Wallace.
Detroit Pistons, 2003. So we haven't even seen an
Bam.
NBA player do this in 21 years either. I mean, that to me is why the idea that there is no conversation to be had about Rookie of the Year is stupid. I will say the same thing I have been saying. I'm still giving it to Caitlin Clark at this point, but the idea that it's just this runaway contest, that is ridiculous. She has 62 rebounds in her last 3 games. That is bananas. That is nuts. But alas, they have not resulted in wins, and Chicago is losing their grip on the postseason. So that's going to be the biggest question. We're starting to see Camila Cardoso round into form since the Olympic break, too. She's playing even better as we sort of do a little bit of a look around with some of the other rookies.
Mhm.
But man, they've got a half game lead over Atlanta for the eighth and final playoff spot. And I don't know. It feels like when you talk about momentum, it's Atlanta that's got all of it right
Yep,
now, and Chicago does not. And I do think that ultimately, if they can't make the postseason, that is going to be something that factors into the voters' minds when it comes to Rookie of the Year.
definitely. Bananas and nuts. You said this was bananas. Bananas and nuts make for good Sundays, L. But everything that we're seeing from Angel Reese, we have to call out the obvious. And one, the Dream, by the way, barely lost to the Mercury the other day, so they're coming, right?
Yeah.
The Angel Reese numbers are a touch misleading though. Like so many of those rebounds, the offensive rebounds are because of the field goal percentages and because of the misses. Like, right, I was looking at the numbers. She's the only player in the WNBA with triple digit offensive rebounds this season, right? That's because a lot of them are coming by way of her misses.
Sure.
I mean, listen, 20% from 3 point land. She is a strong forward. She's a power forward. All of her shots, right? The lion's share of her shots come within the paint. And even that still, she is 48th out of 52 qualified players in field goal percentage. And she makes her living in the paint. So I'm wondering, the rebounds, treetops look cool, right? It's a double double every day, but the Sky would be far better off if she was getting fewer rebounds and her field goal percentage was
Hitting
simply
more buckets.
higher.
Sure,
You know what I'm
and
saying? Like
listen.
she has to convert the first time.
Yeah, this is something that, first of all, she's not a three-point shooter, not even close. I know some of those videos were going viral for working on her, her shot before the draft and like, look at Angel Reese hit 7, 8 threes in a row. That is not her game. That has
No,
not ever been her game. That's not her game. I love that she's working on it. It does become an important part of your game, especially as you get older and you can't rely as much on your athleticism. Every player that I know at some point likes to start really working on their perimeter shooting because that will keep you on a roster far longer than anything else. Um, but yes, that had always been a bit of a concern, at least early on, according to some of the experts, or at least the experts that I talked to in the space, was just her ability to shoot, outside the restricted area. Could she get outside the paint? Could she have even just a nice mid-range type of shot, which is something that she was able to use and utilize at LSU. But I mean, the numbers are the numbers, and like, yes, you can dig a little deeper into the numbers. It's fun. It's funny. Back in the day, when I was working for the Atlanta Hawks, there was someone that told me, oh, he will remain nameless. He's an NBA player. And he told me Kevin Love's numbers were a facade. And he was like, if you watch Kevin Love, right? Because this is at the time where everyone was recruiting him. The Celtics were recruiting him. Everybody
was this
wanted
when
to
Kevin Love
become.
was still he had a bit of extra love on his body,
Yes.
or was
Yeah.
this like Banana
This
Republic model Kevin
Yeah,
Love?
this is not the glow up Kevin Love. This is like right before it,
Okay, this is still
this is right
chunky
before it.
Kevin
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah, this is
Kevin
T Wolves.
extra love. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yep. Yeah, a little extra there to love.
Sure.
But they were like, "Man, his double doubles and all that, it's such a facade because if you watch, like, sometimes he'll rebound the ball to himself. Like, he'll tip the rebound off the board and that's good for he does it a couple times a game. You're talking about 4 additional rebounds on top of whatever else that
Yes.
you're getting. But still, I think that, the biggest issue for the Sky is they've dropped 11 of 18. They've lost 3 in a row, 4 of 5 since the WNBA resumed play. They don't have a shot, an outside shot. They traded away Marina Mabrey. They haven't replaced her production. So you're asking Angel to do things that are not necessarily within her scope right now of her career. And so that's kind of the unfortunate situation that she's put in. But the one thing that we knew she'd be able to do and that she is doing exceedingly well is dominate the glass. And she's, giving her team an opportunity at second chance points. The problem is there's just not a whole lot of depth there to help, secure a bucket.
He tweeted yesterday after, I think, the offensive rebound thing. I mean, it's always been sort of the talk of this season and why the numbers are very inflated. Her last 3 games, 10 offensive rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds, 10 offensive rebounds. And you can look on TikTok or YouTube and you can see the sequences in which she'll miss the layup and then get the rebound and miss and then get it. And then she tweeted yesterday, she was like, if it's easy, everybody will be doing it. And I don't know, Elle, what she means by that, because a point blank shot for a WNBA professional basketball player should be easy enough to convert. So I'm wondering if she's hearing the noise, understanding that, okay, I got to clean this up. I got to convert these shots the first time around if I want to have a case for being in the conversation. Again, you and I have been in lockstep in that Caitlin Clark is the rookie of the year. I think she should also be in the MVP conversation. But if this rookie of the year conversation is going to have any validity between these two and any legs between these two, like an actual shot of competing with Caitlin Clark for rookie of the year, she needs to convert more shots and she needs to be a one-on-one player. Like get the ball in the paint, score. I want to see offensive rebounds go down and field goal percentage go up, is basically what I'm saying. And listen, it's a tall task for the WNBA Rookie of the Year voters. There's only 14 of them, and it's based off of a point scale. So like they're seeing the same stuff that we're seeing, but it's 14 of them. So it's not like, the professional baseball writers of so it's 50, or Heisman voters, it's 50 across the country. It's 14. You can fit them plus 2 in an egg carton. You know what I mean?
Sure. I think what she probably means by if it was easy, anyone would do it is that slapping back a little bit at the criticism that you're levying, which is, listen,
It's
totally
valid.
reasonable. Yeah, valid and reasonable, right? Like we can have a reasonable debate about that. Those numbers don't lie. They're not great. But I think what she's saying is I can't possibly be the first person in WNBA history to shoot poorly. And I, alas, am still the first person in WNBA history to get this amount of rebounds, is I think what she's saying is
Sure.
that while, yeah, she'd like to improve on that aspect of it, there's no way that she is the worst shooting WNBA player of all time. And alas, she's still dominating the glass in a way that she did in college as well. That is a
Mhm.
huge part of her game, is her ability to dominate offensively. They
Yeah.
always gave LSU extra chances. Just the difference is that she had, perimeter shooters to kick to. But you mentioned that she tweeted, and one of the most notorious tweeters of all time
Here we
is
go.
Magic Johnson.
Oh,
And that is because his tweets are obvious, boring, inane, and unnecessary. But I tell you what, when it came to flaming Anthony Edwards,
hey, yo, yes.
he went there. So let's just take like a quick break, a quick little timeout, and when we come back, we'll tell you why Magic Johnson said he wasn't going to respond, but very much did. We talked about on this podcast how Anthony Edwards is my one of my absolute favorite athletes. I
He's a
mean,
dog.
like literally, go dogs.
Oh, yeah, true. He's a dog. And a
But
Timberwolf, that's a dog too. It's
yeah,
like a
look at
more
that.
aggressive dog, but
Yeah, it's a wolf, so that's fine. But yeah, dog-like
cousins.
in many ways. Um, But we talked about how absolutely absurd it was what he said last week, that Michael Jordan was able to excel in his time because nobody else was skilled and he was the only one that was skilled, which is why Kobe took the world by storm because they were like, "Oh wow, like this is a person that's skilled just like Michael Jordan,"
Mhm.
which is I think is absurd and also it just speaks to being a prisoner of the moment. And this is like always going to be the battle between the old heads and the new heads. The old heads are always going to say, "Oh, back in my day, they could take a club to your knees and you still had to battle through it and the refs wouldn't call anything, right?" And then the new
Damn.
guys go, "Yeah, back in the day, you guys were playing against plumbers," right? Like this is always going to be the back and forth between the old and the new, but
Yeah.
that is absurd. It's more absurd because he started out that comment by going, "I didn't watch anything from back in the day, so I probably shouldn't speak to this, but I'm going to speak to it anyway." So like that's what made it the
Yeah,
most
I mean,
absurd.
L,
Yeah,
it's the same guy who didn't know who Alex Rodriguez was when he bought the freaking team, and he's like,
correct.
"Who's A-Rod?"
He's
What
like,
do you
"What does
mean
that
who
mean?"
what do you mean who's A-Rod?
Yeah. He's like, "Aaron Rodgers is buying our team?"
Straight like even if you're not a baseball person, even if it's not your same generation, like you know who Alex Rodriguez is, whether because of his baseball fame or the fact that he is also infamous because of the steroids and the Jennifer Lopez thing. Like you have to know who that is. So listen, man, Anthony Edwards is in his own little bubble, living on his own planet. And
His
for that,
own
I
world.
can't knock the guy.
He was living on his own little planet. I thought that the hullabaloo had died down a bit, but here
Not a
comes
shot.
Magic Johnson weighing in on those very comments that MJ was the only skilled player in that era. Magic Johnson, who I expected we would get some tweet that was like, you know,
Anthony Edwards is a
Anthony
great
Edwards
basketball
is a
player.
young man who's a
Yeah.
basketball player who does not understand what it was like.
Yes.
He instead did the thing where you say, "I'm not going to respond, but I am going to respond." And here's
Boom.
his quote: "I never respond to a guy who has never won a championship. He didn't win a college championship. I don't even know if he won a high school championship."
Oh, somebody should have helped him out there. The same people who manufacture his tweets, which by the way, we know who that is because one of our friends is friends with the person who tweets for him. So he's got people around him. And he's no dummy. He's on that stage. He knew that question was coming from our very own Stephen A. Smith. So he should definitely know that Anthony Edwards is a high school state champion just 5 years ago, L, from the great state of Georgia.
Yeah.
Now, you can speak to this better. It's a class triple A state title, but a title nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit of a class snob. I went to a
Okay.
school that was a 6A, right? Meaning
And how
like,
big does it get in Georgia?
well, now it goes all the way to 7. So you can
Man.
be a 7A. So like when we talk about the other day, they played a Buford High School football game on ESPN. I was actually going into it. Buford High School is a perennial state champion or at least a contender. They would be in a 7A. And of course, that falls into how big your school is and all of those things. So it's not his fault he went to a smaller school. I think we went to a prep school, right? Holy Spirit in
Yeah.
Sandy
Okay.
Springs. Curiously, Buford right up the street from there. So ultimately, you've got a class 3A and then a class 7A within miles of each other. But that doesn't, I'm not going to besmirch that. He won a state championship. He did. But I also think that was Magic trying to sort of read him a little bit. Like, I don't
I
even know what,
I don't
would you
know
win
who
a
you
high
are.
school championship? Even if
Yeah,
you
I don't
did
know
win
who
a high
you
school
are.
championship, it's a high school championship. I don't know anything about you. Shit up. We know he didn't win a college championship. The poor guy went to Georgia. And let me tell you,
Hey,
basketball's not their strong suit.
he won a couple freshman players of the week, and to do that and player of the week, SEC player of the week. So as a freshman to do that in the SEC, that's nothing to sniff at. Um, what I am worried about though, L, is for every Anthony Edwards, there are 10x of Anthony Edwards, right? Like you and I, we grew up in the Jordan era. I don't know about you, but Jordan's my GOAT, right? I watch
Yeah,
these videos of these social media teams setting up, cameras outside of Jets training camp or Chiefs training camp. And it's like, who's your GOAT? And 70% now or more is LeBron. And then it's about the same Kobe and Jordan. So it's like the movie Coco. If nobody's thinking about you, you're forgotten. So after our generation passes the baton to these Gen Zs, they're not going to know who Michael Jordan freaking is
I
at
know.
this rate.
Yeah. And that's okay. That is,
It's
I always
not
joke,
okay, You
yes,
can't erase history.
well, no, it's not about erasing history. What it is, though, is that we are all our understanding and perspective is skewed based on where we grew up and when we came from. I'm a big believer in history. I love history. I've got parents that are into history, so they always taught me the history.
Yes.
I don't think there's a valid excuse for not knowing music from before you were born. I get hit with that a lot. Well, that song came out before I was born. I'm like, and Sam Cooke was one of my favorite artists of all time, and he died 30 years
Mm.
before I was born. Like that doesn't.
R.I.P. Sam Cooke.
R.I.P. Sam Cooke. So I don't think like I am a steward of history and I love it and I enjoy it. And I think it's important to, especially nowadays, these kids have access to YouTube. They can go watch these old clips if they want to. But when I think about these GOAT type of conversations, like my father-in-law is 77 years old. And if you ask him who the GOAT is, he's gonna say Kareem
Kareem.
Abdul-Jabbar,
Okay.
because the man was he had a whole move band, right?
Yeah.
Because he was watching him at UCLA. Like that was who he grew up thinking was the GOAT. And it doesn't matter what you say to him and what you tell him and how many more clips of LeBron he sees or games that he sees of Kobe, and he's watched them all. He still stands on the fact that it is Kareem. And I think part of what goes into those conversations is not just what you see on the court, but how they made you feel, how they
Yes.
galvanized, like how big their name was. All of those things are important. There's going to be people that tell you the greatest boxer of all time is Floyd Mayweather. Right?
Hey,
And then there's going to be the people that would cringe and go, it's Muhammad Ali, right? Or the people that would go, oh God, it was Mike
it's
Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
I
It's
mean,
Iron
that's the,
Mike.
right? Like it
Yeah.
just depends on your perspective, what you liked, what you were into, who like if you ask me, one of my favorite football players of all time, I'm going to tell you Rod Smith. And most of the
Hey,
experts and
Rod
pundits
Smith,
are going to, right? And
dude.
they're going to go, what? And I'm going to go, but I grew up loving Rod Smith. The Broncos were my team. And like, he was who I modeled my celebrations after. He was always just so chill and humble. And like, I loved him. So if you ask me, all of these things are subjective,
Yeah.
guys. And I think that's the thing, is that we can leave space for the fact. Now, what I don't like is when you say things like, oh, I didn't watch any of those people play, but I already know they all sucked. That's
Uh-huh.
not okay.
And
If
that's
you
what Anthony
watch,
Edwards did.
correct,
Fairly. That's what Anthony Edwards basically labeled
correct.
the entire generation, like the bad boy generation. Anything basically pre 2000. He's a 2001 baby, which is insane. So anything in the 90s and earlier, he's like, that's cheeks.
Correct. Like he didn't really watch Michael Jordan play,
Correct.
like it's that it's Michael Jordan. He didn't really
Yeah.
watch him play. So I don't mind that these young people think that whoever it was they grew up loving is the best. What I do mind is that they don't do any research in criticizing the past generation. If you just want to stand on, well, I think LeBron is the best because of this, fine. But you don't have to denigrate an entire group of people that you never
Sure.
actually watched play in the process.
And I'm the outlier in this conversation because I do think I'm 37, born in 87. I never saw Jordan play in person, obviously just watching him on NBA and NBC. And I've seen LeBron play in person. We've obviously tracked his career professionally for the entire duration of it, and I still think Jordan's the GOAT. So I'm like an outlier in this conversation in that I never had firsthand experience with Jordan, never saw him play in person, only on TV, and I still think he's the best.
And there it is,
Wait,
and
and who's your answer, by the way?
You're gonna corn me. I was hoping I could just like
Why?
gloss over
Because
it
you're
and move
friends with
on.
LeBron, so you got to say
I'm not
LeBron.
friends with LeBron. I've never met LeBron James a day in my life.
Ah, bull. Stop.
I haven't. I've never met LeBron. I do not know LeBron at all. I'm
You've never got like a DM from LeBron or like a text from, because he's very much a ESPN viewer, and obviously you are on the screen all the time, and you get texts and DMs from all kinds of athletes and
no.
celebrities.
He tweeted at me. The only time he's ever tweeted at me is after we saw Space Jam, the one that he was in. Eva was super into Lola Bunny, and for the first time was like picking up basketballs and trying to shoot and stuff because she was inspired by Lola Bunny. And I took a video of her in our backyard, and she'd pick up the ball and she'd go Lola Bunny and then dunk it. And I sent a clip because everyone was all over the movie and how bad it was. And I was like, this movie's not for you. This movie is for children. And I was sending a clip to basically say, like, thank
I
you,
did.
LeBron,
I
because
do
this
remember
is
that.
what this movie was for. This movie was not for the critics. This wasn't for Roger and Ebert. Like, wait, Ebert and wait,
Ebert and
is his
Roper.
there it is. His name is
Roger
Roger Ebert.
Ebert
Damn it.
and
Yeah,
something Roper.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the New York Times
I'm
shouldn't
locked
be
in.
like, reviewing Space Jam. It was intended to inspire kids to play basketball the same way the first one was. Michael
That's right.
Jordan's acting wasn't exactly Academy Award winning.
Hey, watch
And
it.
he responded and was like, "There you go," or something like that. Like that's literally the only interaction I've ever had with LeBron James. I've no interaction with him. I do not
Okay.
judge
Tickle me shocked.
I don't base my opinions around whether they're going to like me or if I have interactions with them. I've had to be critical of people I respect and people that I know. But I'm going to go with LeBron only because
Only because he's lost
I
4 NBA finals.
no, because I do
6.
think I know, I get it. Michael Jordan never lost an NBA finals. I get all that. It's a really hard conversation in general. I kind of hate these comparisons. I don't think we have to compare, but if you're going to force me to pick one, I would say LeBron just because yes, the quality of play has gotten
Okay.
better. The in general, but that doesn't mean that there was no skilled players in the NBA back then. That's absurd. Um to that point, though, Dennis Rodman a couple of years ago also said the same thing about LeBron, that he only has a layup. That's hate too. That's hate. He's like, LeBron is nothing. I could have stopped him. All he has is a layup. That's his only move, which is
Hey, listen,
also absolutely
listen,
absurd.
if Dennis Rodman says he can stop you, Dennis Rodman can stop you. All right.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see. I don't know. I wonder if Dennis Rodman was so great at stopping anything, if he could have stopped the Chargers from getting off of the elevator that they essentially got
This
stuck in.
sounds terrible to me, Elle. This is
Thank you.
nightmare inducing.
So the Chargers, if you didn't hear, including Justin Herbert, their quarterback, were on an elevator Friday night in Dallas. Elevator gets stuck for like a couple of hours. This is my worst nightmare. Every time I get on an elevator, I start playing the process of, do they have an alarm? Do they whatever? Like, what would I do? How could I get out of this? And so it begs the question, if you were stuck on an elevator, Gare Bear, with 3 people, who would be 3 people you would want to be stuck on an elevator with and 3 people you would not? Can I start with who I would want to be stuck on an
Yes,
elevator with?
please. Yes.
Adele. Okay. Let me tell
Nope.
you why. Because music is a form of therapy for me. We've talked about this on this
It's true.
show. She can sing. She's also witty. She's pretty funny. She's pretty British. I could work on my accent with her. She would calm me and soothe me
Hmm.
by just singing to me, right?
Okay.
Brene Brown, a noted therapist, noted for her TED Talks. I would need that therapy because being enclosed in small spaces is a nightmare for me. So I would need her to talk me through it. I would need some form of therapy. And then
Okay.
finally, because I am a practical person and logistical person, I looked up who is the chief engineer for Otis elevators because it stands to
Hey,
reason
that's
you're going
right.
to get trapped on an Otis elevator,
True.
and it's Haran Vela. So I would want to be trapped with that dude because I
Not for
feel like
sure.
he'd be able to troubleshoot quicker how we get the out of this situation.
Nah, Haran, the homie, and he's probably in close proximity because what a lot of people don't know is Bristol's home to not just ESPN's headquarters and not just the Carousel Museum, but it's also home to the Otis elevator headquarters. It's
Yeah, it is.
insane.
It
Like,
is.
yo, Bristol's got some heavyweights.
It's
Like,
got some
it's
heavyweights,
so
bruh.
random. It's like if anybody's never been to Bristol, just imagine this gigantic rectangle just cascading into the air, and that is their headquarters. And I got to imagine it's because they have, it's a 20-story building and it's just elevators and they just practice on stuff all day. So Elle, I'm gonna need a priest, I need a doctor, and I want that guy as well.
Okay, so we're in line there, and you're not going with celebrities, you're going with
No, I don't need
people
none of
that can
that.
help you through this situation.
Nobody wants to be there and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna take my opportunity to now to sort of pitch you on some content ideas that I have." Not a shot. And I don't listen. I
It's a
don't want to
captive
be.
audience, Gary, it
I
might
don't
not
want
be
to
the
be yeah,
worst
like.
thing.
Listen, you ain't got nowhere to go, and they say you should always have a good elevator pitch. And since we're in an elevator, if you would humor me while I pitch you this, nah, just and hopefully, Elle, this is not me body shaming at all, but hopefully they are of the smaller variety because we've all been in elevators and they're not comfortable, right? Which led
Yeah.
me to the question, what's the worst place to catch a rogue fart? In an elevator, in a plane, or
Ooh,
under the sheets,
yeah.
right? Like where's the worst place? And I got to think elevators right up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because, listen, I feel like when it comes to airplanes, I feel like every airplane's theme could be like brought to you by crop dusting. People toot on elevators, or I mean on airplanes because there's just this mass of people. You can't identify exactly where it's coming from. It's horrific. I
It's
sat on a plane a few months ago near someone that just decided stinky air biscuits was going to be the thing they
nah,
were going to give the
nope,
whole time. It was
I'm
like,
out.
you get a Biscoff and you get a stinky air biscuit. It was horrific, but an elevator? Like, imagine thinking you're just gonna crop dust and get off, and then you get stuck
And
and
then
you
that
have to
thing gets
sit in it.
stuck.
There's no
That's so embarrassing.
ventilation. Okay,
That's
now
embarrassing.
here's the 3 people that I would wish and hope for the elevator to plummet, like like the movie Speed where it plummeted. I would want it to plummet to my death if I was trapped on an elevator with Kanye West,
Okay.
Logan Paul,
Damn.
and Conor McGregor. Can you imagine those 3 swinging on one elevator together? The ego, the machismo, just the all of it it would be, I think, personally, my form of hell.
See, that wouldn't be bad to me. I feel like I can tune them out. And I feel like that there'd be some infighting there. So I think the problem would probably handle itself. L, just don't put me on an elevator with anybody who's a salesperson, door-to-door sales, talkers. I'm going broad here. All right, people, talkers, kids, salespeople. Because in that situation, I just want to be left in silence and help is coming. All right. I don't want any interaction. L. Imagine being stuck on an elevator with kids.
Oh, it'd be a
Where can
horrific
I
nightmare.
where can I drop this thing?
Yeah.
Let's get this over with.
What's definitely on me is doubting Georgia Tech as we get ready to wrap up this show.
Yes.
Doubting Georgia Tech. On this very show last week, Harry Lyles and Ryan McGee joined us to preview week 0, Georgia Tech, FSU, number 10 FSU at the time, in Ireland, in
Yes.
Dublin. And I just felt like, you and Harry being like, don't sleep on the Jackets.
Hey, we called
Now,
it. John
you
Tech, baby,
did.
baby.
You guys called that they could win. I still stand on the fact that I don't think FSU is that good. And I said that beforehand. And then we saw that I think that they're ranked too high at 10. Certainly they'll take care of that this week, or 9. They were ranked at 9.
No,
I think
10.
they're 10. I think they're ranked too high. And certainly that we'll take care of that after what we just saw. But look at the Yellow Jackets. And my favorite thing is that I have like 90% of my friends all went to Georgia Tech,
Hmm.
like women. And it's funny because Bomani, after I said that, I tweeted like 90% of my friends went to Georgia Tech. And he was like, oh, so those are the 5 women that go to Georgia Tech? And I was crying, laughing. They all played basketball there. I never, ever hear from them during football season. And why would I? Right? Like never hear from them. And all of a sudden, the group texts were going crazy. I
Hey,
mean, this was their national championship,
sting
Gary.
them. Sting them. Ramblin' wreck. Here we
The
come.
Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech, and shout out to their social media team who pulled every receipt from College Game Day. They
Yep.
posted a clip that went viral of like Desmond, Howard is like, I don't think that they'll be able to control the line of scrimmage. Cut to a clip of them controlling the line of
They
scrimmage.
dominated. Damn near
Hurry
200
being
yards
like, I can't
rushing.
wait to watch FSU run. Click to FSU not being able to not being able to run at
6
all, getting
possessions.
stuffed. Correct. It was at first would look like a very high scoring game because there was no defense. Certainly they ended up settling in, and I think I jinxed the game, but it was a big win for Georgia Tech. It was the first time that they got a win over a top 10 opponent since 2015, and good for Georgia Tech. Now they'll face Georgia State next week. That seems tame by comparison, but congratulations to the Yellow Jackets. I'm a Bulldog. Everyone's like, are you rooting for Tech? I'm like, hell no. I'm a Bulldog. I don't give a damn. But for this one day only, I found great pleasure in the fact that Florida State ended last season by getting their kicked by Georgia and then
Yep.
started this season by getting their butt kicked by Georgia Tech. I thought it was funny.
It's good that the ACC is getting these early headlines. Florida State, listen, I'm not a believer because of who's at quarterback. DJ Uyunglele, he's been in the ACC. He wasn't impressive at Clemson. That's why he transferred to Oregon State. Yeah, he won a couple of games in Core Vegas, but again, it was nothing otherworldly. It wasn't a world beater type run that he had there at Oregon State. So then he transfers at Florida State, and it's more of the same. So I've never been high on the DJ Ooh. But I am excited to see what Georgia Tech does because they have a couple of teams ranked now. It's what can Miami do? What can Clemson do? Can they bounce back from a disappointing season last year? And Georgia Tech was a 7-6 team. So if they can string some wins together, then all of a sudden we're talking about the ACC being pretty damn good. And it's not thanks to Florida State. So again, it's week 0. It's still freaking August. Plenty of football to be played out. But I think we got off to a fantastic start of the football season, already throwing a pulled pin grenade, boom, top 10 team will find its way out expeditiously.
Cannot wait for that. And we also got a pretty explosive announcement in the sports world. A new season of Ted Lasso is coming. Now, this is one of those moments where I love, like, when we have these monocultural things where everybody gets to have a reaction on social media, whether it be games or movies or whatever it is, TV
Yeah.
shows, we all watch together and everyone gets to revel. And I'm watching my timeline, Gary, just light up with excitement. Ted
Uh-huh.
Lasso's coming back, another season, and they've got all of the big stars that are returning. And I was like, cricket, 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 because I watched one season of Ted Lasso
Yep. The
and
first one.
the first one, and I thought it was really good. But my husband looked at me at the conclusion and I was like, shall we sign up for season 2? And he was like, no, I think I get it. I think I got it. I think yep, I get it. He's a lovable, funny guy who's eternally optimistic. I think I'm all set. And we never
Damn, so Omar
watched.
pulled the plug.
He pulled the plug. And,
Holy
when you're
smokes.
married and you're limited on time anyway, you guys watch the same thing together.
Yeah.
You have to agree to watch things together. And he pulled the plug, and I haven't dabbled back. And I heard that Ted Lasso ended on a notoriously good note, but that the last season of it was horrific. And so
Okay.
they rallied with an incredible series finale, which is what we thought at the time, but that this is not a thing anyone wants to come back. That's what I heard.
Elle, if you heard it, I'm gonna just co-sign with you because I am one and the same. I watched the first season because I got like a freebie with Apple TV, and then once it expired, listen, hey, I don't got Apple TV money. And here's the thing. And this, I'm glad that we're ending the show on this. This is my full circle moment about me being like, you're going to say LeBron because you're friends with LeBron. You are friends with Jason Sudeikis.
I am not.
You're in pictures with him all the time. WNBA. He's on
No.
Countdown. You've been hanging out with him. You've hung out with him.
Thank
So
you. You need to put some qualifiers before these things. I
what?
have hung out with Jason Sudeikis.
Boom. You've hung out with Ted Lasso. You knew this was
I
coming.
have taken a couple of pictures with him. We are not friends. I wish I could be. He's cool as hell. He's awesome. He's not
Elle,
my friend.
stop it.
We hung out through friends and like he's super cool, but it was like the one time I hung out with him. I think Jason Sudeikis is fantastic. I wouldn't know. I don't know because I have not been on the
Stop it.
Ted Lasso train, but I will say this. There are some sports specific type of shows that I would love to make a comeback. And I want to know yours. Me in particular, I think Sports Night was ahead of its time. I'd love to see that. Aaron Sorkin released that. Kenny Mayne was in it. Do you remember that from a
Oh,
few
that's
years
right.
ago? Right?
Yep.
Like
Yep. Yep.
he released that before he did some of the other more serious episodic type of dramas. What happened to Friday Night Lights? Actually, I'm going to
Oh,
pause there. Friday Night Lights really ended on a note. I would like to see if they could rehatch that in a better way. And I'll throw one more at you because I
okay.
dug it. Ballers. I thought it was
Oh,
funny.
Ballers was cool. I remember seeing an episode and they were straight up like having sexual intercourse, and I was like, "Whoa,
Oh my God.
this is on ESPN."
Wow. Were you
Do
embarrassed?
you remember? Well, no, but I was like watching this in high school, and I was like making sure my parents weren't home. Then I turned up the volume. Just kidding. Hey, Elle, that's actually exciting, and it's a perfect segue. I have an announcement to make.
What?
I, and this is serious, have been cast in a movie.
What?
that's going to start filming next fall.
In what?
I'm going to be a sports announcer. It's a
What?
boxing movie that's got an actual budget and actual actors and actresses. I
You're
don't
gonna
know.
have to be a sportscaster? Well, that's gonna be your greatest acting job of all time.
You're an asshole. And more specifically, I'm going to have to be about a boxing announcer. Yeah,
Oh my God, this
it's
is
pretty cool. I
amazing.
just got the script sent to me. It's 100-page script. It's a $20 million budget. I think I'm saying too much. I'm not getting that, but
Well, clearly.
the director just sent that to me, literally. So
Incredible,
I'll give you some
Gary.
more. And now I get to join you as somebody who gets to make a cameo in a blockbuster movie. You
Yes.
famously from Ride Along.
You get residuals and everything. Oh, I'm proud of you, Gary Bear. This is big news. This
Let's
is
go.
incredible. You're going to be a movie star. Well, you certainly have the
Hey,
face for it. You certainly have the face for it. Now, the body could use some work. I'm just kidding.
damn. I still fit in an elevator.
Congratulations, Gary. This is big news. We'll
Well,
see.
I don't know. It hasn't been like greenlit. They just gave me everything. They said it's going to start shooting in the fall of 2025 or early 2026. So the timeline's still loose. So this is probably going to fall through. But hey, I just got the email today, so I figured I'd share.
I cannot wait to see this when it goes straight to DVD. Oh my God, Gary.
Oh, that would be that would actually be impressive if it went straight to DVD. I hope this thing just finds a home somewhere.
On any streaming network.
Straight up.
It'll be YouTube's first movie premiere. This is big news. You know what, guys? You're going to have to rate and subscribe and review and tell someone about the podcast before Gary gets too big to
Yep,
be on it anymore because
that's
he's
right.
going to be headlining a $20 million movie. And certainly slumming it on this show is not in his cards. So we're going to have to get him while
Headline
we can.
strong, just a cameo,
Yeah,
L.
I love that. It's going to make the movie. Congratulations, friend. All right,
Thanks,
we'll see
thanks.
you guys when we see you.
Yep,
Friday. I should probably know my own schedule.
sure.
Yep. In the meantime, enjoy your week. Care
Peace.
Bear, look at you.
Come on.
Our baby's growing up.